Hey, episode 65, Music Guy Podcast. The horse is really sore after that. This is a podcast about two music guys, and their journey being music guys. I'm with my co-host, Al Rowe, who is recently engaged to a lovely lady. How are you doing, Al Rowe?
That intro was everything I wanted it to be. So that was great.
I didn't clip the mic.
Really great. Oh, you clipped my inner eardrum, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Yeah, exciting news for sure. We got engaged early last week. I could tell the story, but I'd take way too long at telling stories. But anyways, I was able to surprise her, and it worked out just perfectly. And we're super excited, super happy. A lot of old friends and family and people that are really close to us have been obviously reaching out and saying congrats, and we're feeling a lot of love there. And then also people I haven't heard from in months or years reaching out, phoning, writing in, messaging me on, Facebook or text or whatever, right into the show, being like, yeah, no. So it's awesome, man. I'm so excited to be entering this next chapter with Katie, and
I know.
It's the coolest, man. Matt, I'm sure you can.
Are you not going to have a COVID wedding?
Well,
are you going to have a COVID wedding, or
we're looking at like next year? We're looking at 2022.
Okay.
The thing about weddings, and I'm by no means an expert on them, but I have played a number of them,
Yep.
and the thing about weddings is like once I feel like a lot of people are like, oh well, when I have a wedding, I'm gonna make it cheap, or I'm not gonna do this, so then it'll be less expensive, or I'm gonna go here and it'll be less expensive, or like I don't need to invite that many people, that's fine. And then it's like as soon as you start making your guest list, it's like if you got your families in there, you get your friends, you're at 60 to 75 people in like 5 minutes. That's how many people you got on your list. And then there's all the people that
you don't want to piss anyone off.
Yeah.
Like,
and then there's the people that you forget in the moment to write down a list, and like every few days you're like, oh, I got to invite this person as well. Shoot. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, there's really I don't think there's really a way to avoid just trying to do something pretty big, not enormous, like maybe like 100 people. You want to get a nice venue. You want to have a nice dinner. It's always going to end up being an expensive day, and like it's going to be a big day. And it doesn't really jive with COVID. Obviously, most things don't. So I think in that case, we're waiting at least until 2022, and hopefully we'll be able to do it. I've been watching people postpone their weddings for like this last year or whatever. I mean, like, man, I wouldn't want to be trying to plan a wedding right now. Now here we are entering the fray. It's like, but I'm sure Matt, you can. We haven't introduced our guest yet, but when we do, I'm sure he would chime in on this subject. Yeah.
We're really hinging. We're waiting so long. Me and Al and Katie have talked about it. We're waiting so long because we're waiting for the podcast to take off, and make a bunch of money. So how it's gonna make money is we have a Patreon page. What's the link to the Patreon page, Al?
It's patreon.com/Music Guy Podcast for any folks who want to support the show directly. We really appreciate that. It helps the show keep going. It helps us cover costs like web hosting. And, if we can cover that, then maybe we'll be able to do a little bit of advertising to help grow the listener base. So any amount could be as little as I think like $5 a month Canadian. We really do appreciate anybody who's going over there and checking that out.
And then now, as another source of income to keep this ship running and also get Al's wedding going, we have a merch store on our website, musicguypodcast.com. You just click on the shop button. We've got t-shirts, we have hats, we have cups. What else do we have? We have sweaters as well too. I'm trying to think if we're missing anything. I was picky as fuck too. Like it took me like 2 months to do this.
Yeah.
I ordered, literally, I made. There's a bunch of different T-shirt designs, but there's a bunch of different T-shirt styles, and I ordered every single one of them. Oh well, that's not true. I ordered all of like the not cheap ones, and I came to the conclusion on the softest, but like the coolest looking one, because I fucking hate when you get merch and it's like I would never fucking wear this.
Yeah.
So go check that out. Buy a shirt with our face on it. That's right. We
Support
have
the
those.
boys.
Yeah.
Support the boys.
Okay, so speaking of supporting the boys, we have a friend here who is also on the Patreon, Matt O'Rourke. He is a producer. He's a drummer. He's like my music friend since the beginning of my music. We were in a metal band in high school together. But he produces an artist named Shawnee from Canada, who's great. Has like a monstrous voice. She would do a better intro than I just did. And then Lance Dobinson, who also actually has a really lovely, like, deep voice. He's a country artist. And then he produces another artist named Jeff Orson as well, who's country. And then he plays with a good friend of mine, Chris Barclay, who I also play with. And then he also obviously plays with Shawnee because she's great. And then Luke Halla, if I'm saying her name right. Did I get it?
Yeah, that's it, man.
I did it. But
You got it.
yeah,
You did it.
how you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you guys doing? Surviving the COVID struggle? I feel like we're kind of like reaching the, knock on wood, reaching that turning point now,
I don't know,
Vaccines were coming out. I don't know. I
Be
think
careful.
things are,
Be careful what you say on here, man.
Yeah,
It's-
be careful.
Jinx
you
it.
know,
Yeah.
you got to knock on something. But yeah, Al, congrats, buddy. Congrats
Thanks,
on the
Jan.
engagement. And yeah, that should be a fun time. Are you guys gonna have a wedding band? That's the big question.
Oh,
This is a
will live
real.
music be an option?
Well, you know what? We'll probably just get forced out of it because it's X amount more
Right.
people on the guest list, and
Yep.
and it's just
Yeah.
it's expensive.
and which it's rough. Feels bad to say that because as players ourselves, like we're really hoping that the wedding season can get back up and running, and maybe at some point late this year or early next, and we can start to work again as musicians. But
Yeah.
it does feel like that'll be still one of the things that sort of gets cut off if it's like, well, you could do 50 people indoors now. It's like, well, okay, well, we're probably not gonna go with the band then, right? Because we want to include those 4 or 5 slots should be our family and friends, which obviously is what you would want to do. So I don't know if we'll be able to.
Yeah.
Also, like, I wouldn't want my friends to be like working my wedding. You know what I mean? Which means I would have to hire a
Yeah, fair enough.
band that I don't know and like haven't heard before. And then what if they're not good? I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe.
you'd
Yeah.
be there
We'll
like
see.
all the time listening and be like, wow, these harmony singers are
See,
fucking shit.
I feel bad because I made Mike work on my wedding, but
I
in
hate
in retrospect, we kind of like it was more of a jam. Like it was just
Yes.
very chill. Like
For
I
doing
just wanted to
nostalgia.
like make music with my friends. Like
Yes.
we kind of like did ours in like 2 separate days. It was weird. So we did like a really super small ceremony on one night, like the
Mm.
night before, and it was just like a super close family, like not even the extended family, nothing like that. And then the next night we just kind of had a party with like all our friends. So it kind of like separated it up a bit. I mean, we thought we were going to save money by doing that, but no, like it's still expensive.
There's no way.
But
The
there's
industry
just no
gets you,
way
man.
because, like you said, Al, like once you start getting that list going, it's like, oh, well, what about them? Oh, what about them? We can't invite them, right? Like, so it's like
Yeah.
you just keep going,
Yeah.
and then it's like, damn. So yeah, but anyway, no, it worked out, and we had a lot of fun. Like that was
It was great. It was a great
fun,
wedding.
so,
I
yeah.
mean, the funny thing is, I would prefer to be playing at a wedding because, to be honest, I don't really know what to do at a wedding. Like I
Yeah,
don't
that's like
really
me.
like dancing.
When I'm like at a concert, I'm like, I just want to like play. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to dance to this. I want to go play. Like, I want
Yeah.
to make people dance. I don't want to be the one dancing. You know?
It's not a great situation for me unless obviously I know everybody there, which I would at your wedding. But still, it was fun. It was a fun time. But I totally get that sentiment, Al. Like, it's definitely like more people that you got to invite, and if it's slim what you can invite because of the restrictions, then it's kind of
Yeah,
shitty.
and
also for me, I mean, I'm realistic. When that happens for me, a wedding, like I am not a wealthy person. I would say I'm in fact the opposite. I don't know if I could afford it. I don't think I'll be able to afford even just a regular wedding, unless you guys buy all of our merch on our Patreon. If we if we get like the same kind of numbers as Joe Rogan, then, then I will.
Then you're talking.
Then you can have a wedding. I mean, it's a big investment, I guess, if you want to call it that, and you definitely want to be careful. I mean, Katie and I have obviously talked about this, but like, there's a lot of things that you could do that you don't have to. That, if we're talking about going from expensive to extraordinarily expensive, of course you're not going to do that stuff. But yeah, I do think that if you want to include, all of your family and your friends, which we want to, then you gotta do that. And that's what we're gonna be trying to make happen for 22, and we'll see, man. I don't know, but yeah, very excited, and thanks guys for that. So in addition, Matt, to the playing credits, I don't know, Mike, maybe you said this already, but like, you're also producing music, and you're running a music school out of your. Is it out of your house, or do you have like a private area for that?
Yeah, no, I have a location now. Like
Nice.
It started out from my parents' house, not even my house. So I had like a separate entrance there to the basement that I was teaching, privately out of, and I had set it up pretty nicely for that. It was it accommodated what I needed it to do. But yeah, then I kind of just saved up, and then I finally found the right spot. Like, it took me like a year of looking to find the right spot.
I remember that.
So it took a while, but it worked out. So now I have a spot, and I've hired teachers, and it's growing like crazy right now.
That's amazing.
It definitely was a smart move. Yeah, and I didn't expect it to go this far. Because I was telling Mike earlier, like teaching's kind of always been like a side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought it would be like my main source of income. But I kind of like realized after a while that like I'm really good with working with kids and like dealing with people and like parents and stuff. And they just like really trust me, and like they like me working with their kids. So I was like, well, that's a skill. So I just like stuck with it. And then, and now it's just like, it's going great for sure.
Well, the funny thing is too, because it's like you took something that was a side hustle and like took it to the next level. You know what I mean? Like, so instead of being like, in my case, teaching is definitely a side hustle, and I make like, it definitely helps me a lot.
Oh, for sure.
Paying the bills. But like, you were like, okay, well, why don't I, open a store and like invest money, and I will make more money in the end by doing this, but I still get to do music.
Yeah, totally.
I believe were you telling me about a certain side guy player who he has a music store and he plays for, I can't remember, and like his wife manages it now. Is it?
I don't remember who that was.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, I kind of like, I wouldn't have thought of taking it to this point, except for that, like my mentor, Rob Spencer, who like I used to work for, and he owns a company called Creative Math and Music, which is based in Pickering. He kind of like mentored me into the business.
Yeah.
So like I probably wouldn't have even thought of doing this except for that, like, because I was kind of learning the actual business side of it opposed to just the teaching side.
Yeah.
Then I was like, oh, I kind of get this. I kind of get how this is working. And slowly started taking over more and more things, like learning how to do databases and run payments and forms and all this kind of crap that goes into it. So yeah, after a while of doing that, then I was like, I felt confident enough to like maybe try taking it on, right?
It's just smart. We always talk about that on the podcast, just diversity of income. Like, because you're not just a player, you're a producer, and you own a store, and you teach though too. Those are all different things.
Yeah, I try to tell people like upcoming players and stuff, like it's really good to like, I'm not saying don't put your eggs in one basket, because some people like are just talented enough to kind of get away with that, but like I feel like it's just smart to like do a lot of things, because this business, as you guys know, is so up and down. I mean, even look at COVID kind of screwing us over a little bit right now. But the gig is kind of like it's like a roller coaster, right? With how busy you get and how busy you're not, it kind of changes a lot. So for me, the school was like, kind of like, I was just like, you know what? This might be a really awesome base for me to always have that kind of like steady income while I'm trying to pursue other things that are like essentially more important to me in my career, you know? So, yeah.
No, that totally makes
So
sense.
how have you been able to navigate the pandemic? Has it helped you to have all these different sort of hats that you're wearing, or have you found it very challenging to sort of keep everything going with how has everything affected you, and how have you sort of navigated it?
Yeah. So, when I first got the keys for like my new location here in Curtis, like I got them in like December 2019. And then as Mike knows, like we opened up right into March when like COVID hit. So it was like the worst timing for a new business owner. Like I was kind of freaked out, right? Like I was like, great. Like, is my landlord going to be expecting full rent? Like I just got in here, I only have the clients I brought with me. I haven't even tapped into like this area yet. So I was kind of freaking out. But luckily the landlord was like super cool, gave me like a ton of months rent free and stuff to kind of like weather the storm, so to speak. And but what I did, like, it was tricky at first, but then honestly, it wasn't that bad. Like I still had like time on my hands because there wasn't much I could do to market the business with the pandemic just hitting, everyone was in full lockdown. So really I just tried to salvage as many online guys as I could, and was still using the space for like production, pre-production work and like doing my online lessons from here. But that was it, man. Like I didn't get the CERB stuff. Like I didn't end up doing the whole CERB thing, but I was still managing okay without having to pay the rent here. Would have screwed me. But luckily, because I didn't have to, I was still getting some income from the online, and still had a bit of production pre-pro stuff on the side going on. But honestly, man, there wasn't a lot going on when that hit, right? So a lot of video gaming and just chilling, right, with friends and just trying to like, keep mentally entertained, through the days. So
no doubt.
Hey, man.
That's amazing that you didn't have to draw from CERB. I mean, I know I was hitting that up.
I know. Yeah.
I haven't been able to.
I got a.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. What's that?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I got I got government help, but not CERB. Like it was like a small business loan type thing.
Oh, okay.
But it's sick because it has no interest. So
Yes.
that helped me kind of with like renovation costs and stuff when I wasn't really getting the projected income I should have been.
100%. Yeah.
Right. So I got to give the government that helped me out.
Yeah.
Big time,
maybe this is the same one you're
thing
talking about. There's like a small business. I think it was for like $10,000 or something. I heard about it recently.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a new iteration of it, or maybe it's the same one that you got. But I was looking into it as a self-employed person, and whether or not I could. It seems like it's more geared towards like actual businesses, not like people like me. But
totally.
Yeah.
I applied for that and didn't get it because I couldn't, like, it's the way they set it up. Like you have to prove you lost a certain percentage of your income. And I unfortunately just really, like, I really wanted that money because I'm like, that's dope, because and then I just put it back towards the loan they already gave me.
Yeah, right.
Because that's free money. I want the free money, not the one I have to pay back. So, but anyway, unfortunately, like I just couldn't prove, because the online lessons, like I still have enough signups that I'm making, an X amount. Like I couldn't really prove I lost a lot of money since I'm like just starting. So it's kind of a weird thing. Also kind of annoying, but whatever.
Hey.
Yeah.
No, that would be great.
I was looking into, not to make this all about financials, but I was looking to CRB, which is the new CERB. And I don't think I can qualify for that either, because it counts against your income from the past year, but like after deductions, which I'm pretty staunch about, like deducting everything I possibly can in my taxes. So my net income is like pretty right on the line, right? So I don't pay a ton of tax, which is what you're supposed to do. And now they're like, oh well, if you're versus your net income or whatever, you're making this, then you don't qualify. So now it's like, it's kind of rough, but
yes.
Anyway.
Speaking of that, like my wife and I just got a new house, right? And we're moving in May, and like just talking about that, like how hard is it to get approved for money when you're self-employed? It's so hard,
God.
dude.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Yeah,
like my
through a
income on
broker.
paper looks like shit. Like it looks so bad. But yeah, it's funny. But luckily, you know, Jess has like, you know, a 9-to-5 job that looks good on paper financially, right?
Yes.
So that helped like big time. And then her parents had to co-sign, blah blah blah. But anyway, it worked out at the end of the day. But we had a lot of help for that.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
That is the fucking way. One thing we forgot to mention is you went to Musicians Institute in LA, which is pretty cool. Like you went for how many years? Was it 2 or 4?
Yeah, I think it was about 3 years I was there. Because they do their like, they don't really have breaks. Like you get like, you do like a whole, I guess it's like in quarters, their schooling. So it's like you do a quarter and then you get like 2 weeks off and then you're back at it. So and so it's kind of nice though, because you just kind of freight train through your schooling, you know?
Yeah.
And you just stay in the game, you know?
It seems like they're pretty hands-on. Like, it's not like, let's do a course on fucking history. Like, I'm sure that was involved a bit.
Not much. Like, I mean, honestly, like I loved the school because like at the time I was choosing between 3 places. Like I was looking at Humber, obviously. I was looking at Drum Collective, I think it's called, which is in New York. And then I was looking at MI, and I auditioned for Humber and I got in, but I got into the intro program because at that time my theory was so bad that I'm pretty sure I bombed that.
I should have gotten into that as well.
Yeah,
it was a mistake to let me into the regular program. Like objectively, not joking. Like,
yeah, you know what? Like, and I also bombed the theory test going into MI, but my playing was good, so I started out at a good level as far as the playing courses went. But I was so grateful that I went back and redid theory. Like at that point, like my teacher was so good. So I was like, oh my God, this like is so easy. Like, why didn't I get this before? Because like I went to O'Neill, which is like a music school, right? Like, and like everyone there is already advanced at 3. So I always felt like way behind, right? Like in elementary school, didn't learn nothing. Like,
I
learned
drummer,
Smoke
man.
on the Water on saxophone. That was it, right? Like I didn't know how to read. I didn't know anything. So so it took me a while to kind of catch up on that front. But it was a really good school. And obviously where it is was awesome. You know, it was a great experience living there for one thing. And then met like some really great friends and players and tons of experience. But yeah, they really like a practical school. Like they get you involved with like all genres. They get you involved with studio work. They get you involved with making tracks, you know, stuff you're gonna need for sure in your career, which that's why I was really drawn to that place. That is just that live element that they included. And just preparing you for kind of any scenario. So
preparing you to fucking work, which is
totally
the job.
The coolest thing they had was they had these like real, I think they were called like live workshops, and you have to do a certain amount of them per semester. Like it's mandatory, but you can also sign up for as many as you can handle or you want to do. And in the library, they just have all different genres, and each week's a different song. And you sign up for as many of those songs as you want for that week. So I would just go nuts. I'd be like, fuck it, I'll do Latin, I'll do country, whatever. I signed up for everything.
Learn the song and then you play it on recording, or you just play it for a live thing?
So you learn this song and then you show up with other dudes that are on other instruments in the other programs that learn the song, and then it's like good luck, and then and the teachers grade you. So it's crazy. And they tell you what you can like improve on. And I thought that was probably one of my favorite parts about it. Just like showing up to like a jam essentially, and then getting like graded on it, you know. There's like, hey, that was great, but like, you know, maybe the timing here felt a little funny, or like maybe you should try this next time. And like, it's just like cool stuff like that.
It's really good, like emulation of what it's like for us now doing artist gigs, where you're showing up to a band that you don't necessarily play with all the time. And it's like, how well did you learn the parts on the record? Like, that's all that matters. There's not really a ton of like, you know, interplay and sometimes there is, sometimes you're shaping things and stuff. But from the get-go, it's like, how well do you know the parts? And like, that's such a great training tool for that. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, it was great. And like, it's funny because like I started out doing mostly artist gigs, like especially after school. Like I was in quite a few bands and like touring while I was still living in the States. And so that was always like, okay, there's rehearsals. So you're always like learning. Well, a lot of them were my parts too, because like I had played on the recording, or even if it was someone else's part, like we have that time to rehearse it and like get it as good as it can be and like work on the live show. But it was kind of like a kick in the face when I joined the Chris Barkley band, because Chris was like, hey dude, like, can you come in this gig? Like Mike called me, actually hooked it up, which is I'm always grateful for. And like, but it was like, hey, here's 40 songs. And I'm like, 40 songs? Who plays 40 songs? Right? Because I wasn't used to doing that. Yeah. So it was crazy. So I'm like, holy. So, I kind of panicked and like I charted everything. And Chris would always, tease me, go, hey buddy, like when you getting off the charts, right? Because I was like a couple gigs in, still reading the charts, because I wasn't super into country world at that world at that point, right? So I'm really glad I did it though. Like it's been great, and I love country now, and so much of the work I'm doing now producing is country. So kind of worked out. But yeah, it's just funny how it happened like that. And then that was kind of a kick. Like learn it, as close as you can, and do a good job, and try to like, and learning how to organize yourself to learn that many songs is always like a challenge, right? Like I know you guys were talking to Willie how he does it, and like how people prep, like it's always different. Everyone has their strategy.
And some people
how much time you're dealing with, right?
Like some people, like I know Al's really good. Like I fucking hate complimenting Al because we're on the podcast together. Like it's just weird. It feels so like self-serving to be like, you're so great, Al. I love you.
That's why I asked you to do the show with me, man.
Fucking, at Humber, when someone would come up after your recital and be like, sounds great, man. Sounds great. It's like, that could mean anything. Like you say sounds great because that's what you're supposed to say. Whether or not I fucking like shat all over stage.
That's true.
Or whether or not I crushed it. But Al's really good at learning tunes, and I'm always trying to like subtly be like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing to fucking learn these goddamn tunes?
Telling you, man, red light, green light.
That's for another episode. Yeah, the red light, green light, that was a good one. That was a good one. You got to trust myself. Right. But, that's in another episode, folks.
Well, once you get into it, like once you get into like learning a bulk of these songs, and then you're doing it for a while, and you're in the game, like you guys can probably contest to this, but it's like you realize like all these gigs you're getting, almost like 75-80% of the tunes are the same. Like you have your female artist country covers, and then you have your male ones, and like a lot of them are similar. So like once you get a few of them under your belt, like, and then you get a newer gig with a different artist you haven't played for, I started to notice, well, hell, I already know half of these. Like,
oh, you play Slow Hands too?
Yeah. You play Booze Cruise? Oh wow.
Yeah. Right. Neat. Yeah. So one of the things, so me and Matt were in a band in high school. I met you through a guy named Matt Jacket, who I thought was like the best drummer ever. He's good. He's a great dude. But we did a musical together, and then we jammed at your place, and then I was like, oh, Matt and me, like you guys had a band going, and then we started a band named Anathema's Blessing. I think it's on the internet somewhere.
It's still on Spotify, guys. You can go check it out.
Get some of those views, get for us.
It's on Spotify.
Maybe I'll ditch this podcast and
this was Mike's shredding days, by the way.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear Mike shredding, this is your chance.
When I was like 17 or 16, doesn't matter. But so one of the things that Matt was always really involved in, because I always just like, oh, he's just a fucking drummer. But he always was involved in like writing and like writing parts. Like he like wrote the parts on a lot of those songs, and then TJ wrote a lot of them as well too.
That was back when like Guitar Pro was the thing. You remember that shit? Yeah. So like me and TJ lived on Guitar Pro.
What is Guitar Pro?
Bouncing ideas back.
It's almost like a DAW that functions in tab. And it only had shitty MIDI instruments.
Yeah, like have you ever gone on Ultimate Guitar and gone to the Pro tabs when you can like click play and it actually like plays the parts? Have you ever used that before?
I think so, and the sound is just like
Oh, like, it sounds like shit. It sounds like when video games first came out, right?
Yeah.
Like you couldn't release anything.
Yeah. So it was more of a writing tool because it was handy, because if we were writing like really complicated parts, which we were, like a lot of it was like odd time, and like because we were like going through a severe Dream Theater progressive rock phase, right? So this whole album was pretty much influenced by that style. So there's definitely moments of that, and to like map that stuff, you really got to map that stuff out. So like we ended up just sitting on Guitar Pro, figuring out these runs and things that we're gonna do, and but it was cool. I mean, you can map out all the parts, bass, drums, everything, so you can kind of practice with it for one thing, and then secondly, like you're just able to see your part in front of you, and So we'd kind of map the songs out, and then the rest of the guys would kind of do their own thing with it, though, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of make it their own.
I heard that Protest the Hero did the same thing.
I would believe it for sure.
Yeah,
for that amount of complication in their music.
Yeah.
I've always like, how could you like sub in for that gig as a drummer? Like good luck. Like I was like, it's so complicated. Like to get to every change, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
How they take the time to do that.
But that ties into you doing production. You know what I mean? Like, cause you ended up, I remember you came back from LA and you were just a drummer, and you didn't get to like use that skill. And then you started to do production from there. How did that happen?
Okay, yeah. So while I was in LA, I was playing with this band, Blacklight District, and we had like a really awesome recording experience. Like we went to this studio, what the heck was it called? Sonic Ranch in El Paso. So it was in Texas, this studio. And it was super cool. Like a lot of big artists have gone through there, but the best thing that happened with that whole band was that I met Steven Short, who's like a really well-known producer. And I kind of like saw how he was doing things, and I was like, this is cool, man. Like I just like that job. Like I want that job. So what I like, his thing though was he was the type of producer that doesn't really play any instruments or anything.
Yes.
Like he's old school. Like he just knows how to arrange and get the best performance out of people, that kind of stuff. And sound wise, he was very tuned in as well.
Yeah.
But what I started doing, like with my free time with school and stuff, is I would just sit in my apartment and like pick any song, like usually pop music, and just like try to recreate every part that's happening that I'm hearing. Like I was trusting my ear to pick out like everything that's going on, all the textures, all the everything, right? And get it as close as I could just with GarageBand. Like, even though I definitely didn't have the exact sounds, I'd be like, well, let me try to work with what I have and get it as close as possible. And just doing a ton of stuff like that, like made my ear so tuned in for like production stuff. So, and that's kind of how I started practicing. Like, I think I took like a Bruno Mars song, I think The Way You Are or something like that. Remember when that came out? So I just like reprogrammed I just redid everything, and then my buddy sang on it and like released it or something like back then. But like like I just started doing tons of stuff like that and trying to get better at programming and just learn how that works, and just trying to get the ear developed to do the job, right?
And then you just like you came back, and then how did you get hooked up with what's his face? Because you produce at with Adam Fair at Villa Sound in Collingwood.
Sure.
Area.
So that's when like things started taking off for me more to speak with like producing is because so I was playing in Shawnee's band as a drummer, and she kind of brought the skill out of me. Like, I don't know, like it was weird. She's like, hey, I have this song. Do you mind just like checking it out? Like, do you want to try working on it? And I was like, okay. And she really liked what I did. Like, I just did my thing to it, and that song ended up like. Yeah, that song ended up kind of starting out like a long-term producing thing with Shawnee, and we've had like pretty good success with a few tunes we've done now. And so that's kind of how I met Adam, because she was already working there, like using that studio. So she had already been going there, knew Adam, and was like, yeah, you're gonna like really gel with this guy. I love this studio. That was kind of the place she would go.
It is
for
nice.
all her writing.
It's
nice for sure.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that happened, just through Shawnee, and then I met Adam, and then now he's been getting me tons of work. So it's been really nice.
Well, you play every fucking instrument, you know, like you play all of the main instruments. Like you were saying this before, like you don't play like lap steel and shit. You'll like hire that out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I try to play like the rhythm section essentially. So like so that way, like if an artist comes in, you don't have to bring in like 5 different dudes, you know? So like I kind of just make it so I go in, I've usually already have the song arranged and mapped out by that point, like from Free Pro. And then I get my files in with Adam, and then I replace the MIDI drums with real drums. I do percussion. I'll usually do bass unless it's like something I think I want someone else to play. But generally, like I really love playing bass. Like I love writing bass lines. I feel like it can make or break a song, like big time. So I love playing bass lines, writing bass lines. And then I'll usually do rhythm guitar, right? And some lead stuff, just depending, like on the complication. But Adam has a couple sick on hand players like for lap steel and fiddle and stuff like that. So like I usually let them take the solos. You know, if it's going to be something super traditional country sounding, I like to just go, you know what, man, you rip this because this is your thing. You know?
Yeah.
So so basically I just give the foundation and then go from there.
Are you going into Villa and recording that stuff with Adam, or do you have a setup of your own that you're using predominantly to do all of that?
Yeah, it's all with Adam. Like I do pre-pro here at my studio, which anyone can really do pre-pro because you just have a MIDI keyboard and a microphone. You can do pre-pro. Yeah. But then like I said, like I'll map the track out here. So the artist will usually send me like, you know, their idea for a melody and chords. Sometimes I'm already like, this is great, and then sometimes I'm like, this is not great. So we have to like redo the bones of the song. Like maybe the chorus is definitely not catchy enough how it is, or like the chords are not working with the melody. But so I've had mixed bags with that kind of stuff. So yeah, we get it ready here, and then I take it to Adam and we redo everything there. And Adam's usually always the engineer, so he kind of runs the board for me, which saves me a ton of time because I can focus on the creative side.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, well that's the cool thing too, is like you guys are like both very specialized. You know what I mean? Like if he's like an engineer and like you guys have really nice gear, so he knows how to set everything, and you know how to do that stuff too. But that's his specialty. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Whereas with you're like a player, which is cool. Like it's a 2-man unit, but it's like functions.
It's a really good partnership. That's a really cool dynamic to have. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because I know some producers are very good at running the board, so to speak. Like they're very tuned into that stuff and like mic placement stuff. But that's just like never been my passion or my world. Like I'm really more about the creative side of the song structure and like bringing the song to life instrumentally, you know. That's like what I like love to do. So to have Adam really like making what I'm hearing and like thinking like happen, you know, sonically, whether that's mic placement or EQing or whatever, like he's able to tackle that with me. So I'm not sitting there, you know, wanting to punch someone because I don't know how to work the board as good as him, you know. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah. That's like that's like like it's just cool because it's we've talked about this before, like what the fuck is a producer? Like what is
I know.
Because the job can be like, I don't play a single thing, and maybe I work the board, and that's like so valid because there are so many great producers who do that. Or it could be the opposite, like I play everything, but you know, like I could record, but you know, there's guys who are better at that.
Yeah. I'm kind of biased because like I am a producer, so I think everyone should have a producer. But at the same time, like when we were writing in our band in high school, like in a sense, we were all producing each other because we're all working things out together as a group. Now that's changed so much where so many people you're working with are just solo artists, right? Everyone's just coming in with their own stuff and they have all the control. So they don't really have any other input happening, you know?
Yeah.
So I think now more than ever, like artists are needing producers because it's like, okay, I have a song, but what, you know, how do I bring it to life? How do I, is it even good? Like, I don't know. So they need help. Right.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
You're the man to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, you're right, Mike. Like the role of producer can sort of take on so many different forms and like what skills you have, what skills you don't have. I guess it's just a testament to realizing that or learning like what you're good at, what you're passionate about, what you're not as good at, what drains you. It's like, all right, well, if it drains me to sit here with a mic and like tweak settings and try to find the right setting, maybe I should find a person who that fuels them. That's like, they just get so fired up about getting the perfect, you know, placement on that mic, and like, but it's really draining to them to sit with an artist and figure out the last few lyrics to verse 2, you know, so they don't want to do that.
Yeah,
you
totally.
know, if you can find that match,
and that's what I do.
So nice.
Yeah. Like Adam, like, you know, he'll like you just said, he'll go hard on the tweaking stuff, but then, you know, he'll like go grab a snack while I'm like sitting with the artist, really trying to like nail in a harmony idea or like try to get them to actually sing the proper melody at a certain part or depending on their experience. Right. So he's like, you know, for him, like, does he want to do that? Probably not, you know? So,
yeah.
Also too, I mean, with, see, this isn't really the case with you, but like we were talking with I guess it's not the case with Dave as well. It's just my opinion that, like, say for instance you got a banjo in the back there and you're not a banjo guy, but like being willing to try other instruments is like I'm fucking learning lap steel.
Oh,
Like,
that's amazing. Yeah.
But I'm not spending a bunch of time on it, and maybe in like 2 years I'll be okay at it, you know?
Well,
Like,
that's the
so
thing.
valuable
I
for
mean,
a musician.
yeah, and you guys especially are good examples of that. Like, you guys are definitely multi-instrumentalists. Like, I mean, like, Mike, you upped your game, like, and started playing keys, and like you've friggin' are insane at slide guitar. I don't know the hell you play slide guitar like that. And Al, like, with, you know, backing vocals and keys. So like that's the thing. It's like when you have those, like, you have like edge on the competition, so to speak, when you guys like pick up other things. Like, you're not just one thing, you know? And that's huge. And that's helped me in my career producing, because I can come in and replace like 3 session dudes and save the artist money.
Yeah.
All that money comes to me instead, which is good, right? So it's like, so I tried to find an edge on what I'm doing and provide a service that's good for people like that. And yeah, it's been working so
even
far.
like little things in some of the mixing I've been doing for clients. Just they'll send me the song. They'll be like, "Yeah, can you mix this? No problems. Sweet, I'll send it to you next week." And like, I just put tambourine and shaker on it. I don't even tell them I did it. I just put it in there because I think it needed it. Send it back to them. They're like, "Wow, this sounds awesome." And I'm like, "Great, awesome," you know. But it's like, being able to,
Totally.
and that's something that I think most people could sort of like. I'm not a great percussionist. Like, to play tambourine well is extraordinarily difficult, but to play it well enough to like then go and chop it up in Pro Tools and quantize it to a grid, it's not that hard, you know. So like, if you can even add little things like that, it's pretty valuable.
For sure. And like most of my demos start with literally click and tambourine or click and shaker. Like, and usually I just grab a loop, to be honest. I'll just throw a loop in, and that's where we're starting from. Like, that way, like, if we are just tracking acoustic or something first, like, the timing's pretty spot on, you know? So you're not worrying too much about timing issues with the click. I find shakers is super helpful with that.
I agree. I love having a shaker loop going when I'm tracking. If there's no drums yet, it really, really helps.
Oh, big time.
I struggle with programming. Like, I'm gonna blame this on the gear, and it's not the gear's fault. But I struggle with that sort of alt percussion stuff, because it is partially the plugins that I have. I guess maybe I don't know how to work them, but like, I plug them in, and I need to get something like shaker loops or like some sort of plugin that is like, you know,
just
I can
buy one, dude,
in on a grid, like a shaker pattern.
I got a shaker sitting on my desk.
You can just buy one.
$20.
Your own loop. Like, just play a couple of bars and then cut her up.
Just spend spend half an hour figuring out how to do this, and then you're good. Yeah.
How to do this.
There you go.
Yeah. Not to oversimplify that it is really difficult to play these percussion instruments super well, so I don't want to, you know, piss anybody off who's an expert at this stuff.
Fucking acoustic guitar, buddy. People do that like with G, C, D, and E minor. They're like, oh, you know, it's pretty easy. These songs are so easy. It's like, fuck you, man. I can't do it. Like, I've tried to record myself multiple times. And like, Al just fucking does it.
Well, I gotta have something. Man. I gotta have something. But yeah, you know what I think? What to Matt's point about being able to play multiple things is like, in school, I feel like one of the things that school did to me that was maybe not a great thing was it sort of cemented in my mind that you could only be one thing. And I don't know if that's my own fault, just for like the way that I took in the information or how I experienced it. But I felt like, all right, Mike is in the guitar faculty, therefore he, you know, if we were doing a project together, he would play guitar, I would not. I would only sing, you know? Like, and I can only be a singer. He can only be a guitar player. He's not going to sing anything. I'm going to sing everything. You know what I mean? And then you get out of school, and I felt like I had this lingering sort of thing of like, well, I'm not a keyboardist. I'm not a this. I'm not a guitarist. I still, like, feel like I'm not a guitar player, even though I, like, play a ton of guitar. You know what I mean? So it's like, whereas I think if you look at it a little bit differently, school actually equips you with the mental processes and the sort of the fortitude to take on a new instrument, because you know all these people who are great at that instrument. You can see what they do, and like you, for lack of a better term, like you know how to music really well because of school,
Yep.
right? You know how to do music.
Yeah.
So you could pick up an instrument, and I'm not saying you're going to be great at it the first time you try it, but like you guys with, lap steel, banjo, whatever, like you can now you can kind of teach yourself almost, because you could sort of reverse engineer from what you're seeing and hearing people do and your knowledge of theory and how music works, and you can figure it out, right? That's one of the probably the most important thing that you could take away from a school program like that, is like the ability to go out on your own and acquire new information, new skills. So I think that I was wrong to feel that I could only, I'm a specialist at singing, so therefore I can't be anything else. Like, nah, like go out there and do more stuff, because like Matt said, at the end of the day, it's gonna get you more work. So if you're thinking about it, you should do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, because you're going to stumble onto those situations. Like, I feel like with gigs, it's like luck. Like if you get obviously it's not just luck, but I'm just saying this to prove my point. So fucking whatever. But like almost there's like a big element of just like you find the right person who needs the thing you have. And it's like, what are the chances are that you're going to find a good paying gig that's going to like employ you for the rest of your life, if you're just a killing like country guitar player and that's all it is. You don't sing backups, you don't play any other styles, like that's all you do. It's like those chances are like so slim, and some people do find that, and I feel like it has to do with skill, but there's tons of people who are really good who just don't get work, but it's just because they don't they don't meet the right people. But
Some
if you
people
have all these other skills.
Yeah, some people don't get like those gigs too, just because maybe they're not like as nice of a person or good of a person to work with as the next guy. Like that matters a lot too. Like don't be a shitty person.
Yeah.
Kind of, I mean, I've heard you guys talk to other. I think Rich said that, and it's so true. It's like that's first, right? And then learn your instrument and just be a good person and be someone that people will want to hang with, and just be a good hang.
Yeah.
But also like say yes too, right? Like, I think a lot of people say no. Like, if I offered Mike a lap steel gig, even if he didn't know the instrument that well, but he was kind of learning, and he's like, no, I'm not good enough. You should use this person. It's like, I think...
Even if the person said, like, you don't have to be good at this instrument, we just need you to play it, a lot of people would say no.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of opportunities to just, like, I'm doing a mastering job right now. Like, because I said yes. At first I was like... No, you should use my guy Ruben at Mojito. He's amazing, and like I really think you should go with him. And they're like, yeah, we just don't have the budget for it. Like, would you be willing to take a crack at it for X? And I was like, okay, sure. You know what I mean? And then it's like, what am I gonna do? Turn the work away? Like it's COVID. I need the work, and now it's a good excuse for me to
a sound engineer that knows how to use EQ and compression
to learn this skill.
Is a second set of ear.
Yeah.
Like you have all the skills you need.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and that was how I got into it in the first place too. Like Shawnee was like, "Can you do production on this song?" I didn't know if I could do it or not, but I said yes. I was like, "Sure, let me take a stab at it," and she liked it. So and then here we are, right? So, but hey, one thing I want to ask you guys is like, and this is something I've been pondering about, is like, for me personally, like one of the reasons I love producing and writing is because like I feel like I'm more invested into that artist or that band when I'm a part of the music, if that makes sense. I feel like it's a very different feeling from being a hired gun. Like I will always prioritize like something I'm involved in, like money wise, like royalties and writing wise, because at the end of the day, like I feel more invested usually. Mm-hmm. So it's just something I was wondering what you guys feel about that, because I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing, but
that makes sense.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't say it was. I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. I would say it's anything that makes you more engaged and more excited, more invested in a project is a good thing, right? So like, I definitely feel that. Yeah, I really, I think probably most of us would agree. Like doing a cover gig at a bar is fun. but you don't really feel like you're doing anything. I don't know, like you're not really leaving anything behind when you go. Like you didn't add any new music to the world. You didn't, you know. And whereas if you're playing guitar or drums or whatever for an original artist, you're playing their original music. Like you are helping to put forth some new music that you believe in, and then like the highest tier of that is, well, man, no, like I played on that record or I produced, or like the reason the second verse is half as long is because I was like, I think this should be half as long, and everybody thought that was a good idea.
Right? Yeah, totally.
Like that feels great, right? So I think
it does feel good.
I agree with you, man. I love being a part of that whole process, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and I think like over time too, like because you start producing more and more, and if you're doing a good job, more you'll get recommended more people want to work with you. And then what you start to see happen is all this music that you're invested in starts paying off, especially with artists that are working hard and getting those streams and that radio play, So like after a while, I started to realize, well, wow, now this became a side hustle and is generating me income on the side now. So it's kind of interesting how that happened. And then like, yeah, and that's a whole nother ball game and I heard you guys talking with Sean Giovanni about that, is like, how do you even like go about like pricing and like that whole weird world of communication with clients? Like I know it's such a greasy word, it's such a greasy topic, but yeah, that whole world's been interesting too, man. I mean, that's a whole nother ball game as well.
Have you learned anything? Do you have any wisdom to impart on us in that sphere there, Matt? Like, have you figured anything out?
Kind of, yeah. I'm still working my way through. Definitely, like he said it, I think, and I had done that, so I was glad to hear he said that, was like really kind of setting a ballpark rate.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of had to sit like with Adam and discuss what he thought about it too, right? So like we had to sit down and kind of figure, well, what should a guy like me be charging? You've worked with tons of producers, so like kind of having Adam to talk to about that was great, since he's been doing it for so long. But it's a tricky thing. Like, yeah, like obviously like the first few projects, the first couple Shawnee things I did, I honestly didn't get paid anything for it. I just did it, but I had like half the publishing royalties on the songs. So they actually did end up paying me back. Yeah, pretty decently. So she's always great for that. So it's like if we're in the room together, like it's automatically assumed, and there's no conflict with it. I've never had any conflict with it, that like everything publishing wise is split. And I don't touch the master or anything. I let the artist have the master. I don't get into that. But I just have a publishing royalty percentage arranged with her. And then with other clients that are newer, I have a studio rate and then plus some sort of percent as well. And it's kind of like a balance, right? Like maybe they don't want to give me any percent. So I talk to them and I work with them and I go, okay, well then this is what I would charge then if the percentage option is gone. Or it's kind of like, I just balance it out. So that I'm happy and then they're happy, because like you don't want to work for what you don't think you're worth. That's kind of the worst when you're in a project and you're like, man, I'm putting a lot of work into this. And I always give it 100%, because you never know like where a song can end up. And if you do a shitty job, someone will be like, oh, who produced that? Like that sounded terrible. You don't want to be that guy.
No.
So I try to always do like a really good job. So like hopefully that, and that's why I tell artists, I'm like, look, this percentage is because I want to invest in this song. Like I want to like be excited when I'm working on it, be like, yes, like my ideas are hopefully going to be liked and used in this song. And when it gets out there, like hopefully it does well and gets some traction, and then I'll see a return. So for me, that like motivates me. And the studio rates just, well, I'm here all day, like for like 10 hours. So you're just paying for that time essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I've been doing it, and it's been working. And yeah, if you just set a good rate and kind of stick to it. Like it took me a while though. Like it took me a while to like finally come to like what I decided, okay, that's a good rate. Cause I definitely started lower, way lower than I am now.
Naturally.
But what I'm doing now, I'm comfortable with. And yeah, but I think you definitely need to start low just to get the experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So when you say percentage,
or do things yeah.
When you say percentage, you talking like songwriting, or are you talking specifically publishing? And do you have a publishing company or like a publishing deal, or how do you figure that out? I
know it's so confusing. I don't actually have a publishing company, but like I just say publishing because when you're registering it on like Sound Exchange and like SoCan, it comes up as publishing percentages. Well, at least on Sound Exchange, it's a publishing percent.
Yeah.
On SoCan, it just gives you a general percentage.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't even know exactly what you call it because in a way it is songwriting, but in a way it's not because like I do alter melodies sometimes. I do like actually a lot, and I do change chords and things, and sometimes help with the lyrics and phrasing. And so, if you want to consider that songwriting, I guess it is songwriting. But as far as like my arrangements go, I usually only take the publishing percentages, and then they're paying me. So like I'm happy with what I'm earning doing the work right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, the songwriting thing's always iffy because it's like, oh well, I changed this and you changed that. But the way I look at it is like, this song wouldn't exist if you didn't bring it to me. So you're bringing me the lyrics and what you think is going to be the chords, right? And then we go from there. And that kind of springs the song. And then sometimes I take it in a very different direction, or sometimes I don't. It like depends. And you know, some artists have more of a specific direction for the song. So that's like another thing I battle with is like some artists are like so dead set on like exactly how it's got to be, or like how they think it needs to be, like even if they don't have that experience to back those decisions. So that's something like you kind of have to like work with, because like at the end of the day, like the artist has to be happy or they're never going to hire you again. So it's kind of like funny, like trying to find a balance of being like in the back of your head, you're like, this is not a great idea, but like I need to come level with this guy. Like we got to find a middle ground because, you know, he's set in stone on this idea or this sound that they're hearing that maybe you're not hearing. So it's always funny kind of hashing those. And then sometimes you get artists that are like, whoa, what you did is so sick. Like, this is great. And they kind of just give you the throne and you kind of do your thing, which that's always the best. Cause then you're like, you're just having so much fun at that point. Not a lot of conflict to deal with, but everybody's different. So you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. That's really insightful. That's super insightful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one world I've not looked into very much is like publishing royalties and like percentage based stuff in the producing world. So I think I need to do more research on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still like, I have percentage deals and I still feel like I got to do more research on it. It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to sort out, but I think it's super important, man. Like if you're involved like heavily in a song, like you almost want that insurance, I call it, that like if this artist does do well or the song does really well, like I feel like it's important to have some sort of stake in it, you know, instead of just being like, oh, pay me $300 and then that's it, right? Like
that would be
especially with
and
the
I've heard horror stories.
Sometimes you put in.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
you guys remember
$300 to produce fucking massive song? That'd be awful.
I have a horror story of that. You remember when what's her name? Who's that chick? She's like that goth chick, Amy something. She came out a long time ago, rock singer. What's that band called? Why can't I think of it?
Evanescence.
You know, wake me up. Yeah. So the guy who I met the guy who sang that part, like when I was living in New Orleans, because he's from there. And just lo and behold, he was using the same rehearsal space as the band I was at the time. And he told us how he recorded that song, exactly same situation. Recorded it for cash for like nothing, and that song blew up, and he got jack shit.
Wow.
So after I heard that, I'm like, from now on, I'm gonna ask for a percentage. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
What was his?
Yeah, so I heard. Yeah.
What was it? Was he like a featured artist on that track? Was that what it was? Evanescence like featuring, or
I think it was. Yeah, because I don't think he was like in the band. Yeah,
he wasn't in the band. No,
they just paid this guy, and he had his own band, I think, called 12 Stones or something. And they had him come in, and he did that vocal track, and then look what happened to that song. It was like their best song.
Yeah,
and he wasn't getting any payment from it, so that kind of sucks. So
yeah,
what can you do?
And he made that track awesome. So
yeah, wake me up.
Yeah, man. I remember thinking that
I was
like, oh, sweet, another Linkin Park band. This is gonna be dope. And then it's like, oh no, it's just the one track.
yeah.
Because I was a huge Linkin Park fan, unabashed over here.
Same.
Oh, fucking Linkin Park is the shit.
Took me a while to get into them though. Took me a while. I feel like in high school, Mike, I feel like I was like all like Iron Maiden and Ozzy and all that stuff. But like if you showed me Linkin Park then, I'd be like, this is stupid. But like now I love them. Like I was like, what was I thinking? You know? I mean, that's the same with everything though. Like country, music and all that and pop music. Like, and I try to tell that to my students. I'm like, guys, look, like, don't box yourself in here. Cause I got those guys that are like, I'm not doing that song. I'm not doing that song. It's like,
yeah,
come on, guys. Like, you got to be open-minded. But I remember myself at that age, right? It's hard, right? Cause you're in that like mindset of what's cool or whatever.
Yeah.
And the world's a lot more black and white.
Yeah, totally. So that's always funny.
Fuck yeah. I mean, I don't know what else you want to talk about, Matt. You boxing, that's cool. Well, you're hitting a bag.
Oh yeah, well true.
Not boxing with people.
No, not with people, just my bag, and I'm terrible at it. But anyway, I know I just trying to get my shit together a little bit. Like I was saying to you boys before we started today, like the start of COVID was kind of funny. Like at first I'm like, this is awesome. Like all my wife and I's friends are like at home working, not even working. Like everyone was on pure lockdown. So I'm like, this is sick. Like all my friends are on Call of Duty. Like, let's just like hang out and play video games. And for like a month or so, like it was pretty intense, like just doing like COD tournaments and like stuff. And I was just getting way too into it. And then I'm like, and then I had to like step back and be like, all right, man, like you're eating like crap. Like you're not like practicing enough. Like the business is where it's at, like, and you can't do much with that right now because of COVID. So I kind of just like was like, all right, I need to like change the routine because I was starting to go a little cuckoo. So I was like, all right. So I started doing some online training with like, it's actually Adam's trainer, like from Villa. So he had been working with him for a while. And I was like, dude, how's that been going? Like, is he good? Like, is it worth trying? And he's like, yeah, man, for sure. So I just like hooked it up with him, and so I've been doing that a bit, and it's like, it's been pretty helpful, man. Like he makes me walk like every day. He's like, go do an hour or like at least like half an hour of walking every day. So he's getting like, so I'm just like, that's amazing. Like I wouldn't even get out of the house before if someone didn't tell me to. So like now I'm just like, so I'm just walking more. I actually have like a workout routine now. And again, I was listening to Sean Giovanni's episode just a couple of days ago, and it was kind of funny because I was thinking of, you know, talking about a lot of similar stuff, and like what he was saying about how he gets up like and just like works out for like an hour like right away and like does his thing and like gets ready for the day. I was like, damn, this guy's like hardcore, but like it definitely, like I'm not as dedicated as him, not even close, but like I'm definitely getting into a better routine. So it's like I can tell it does make a difference mentally, and eating too. Holy Jude, eating is the hardest thing to change. Like, cause I'm all for like procrastination. Like I'm the worst for procrastinating. So I'm like, oh crap, I got to go teach. I didn't eat yet. Like that's me. Right. So
sure.
I'm like whip something, or I go to Tim Hortons and eat a crappy processed meat and cheese sandwich. Right. Like it's like brutal. So I'm like, I got to stop doing that and like just use my time better. Like just prep some food for God's sakes. Like just make a tuna sandwich or like make some eggs, like make something that's like real food, you know? So I just started getting in like better habits of that. So yeah, COVID's been a good learning experience for that for sure. And even my relationship got better too. Like if you want to get into that world, but like, like Jess and I just being around each other so much, like that'll test any relationship. So like there was definitely some like hills and valleys at the beginning of COVID, but like now we're like super even more solid. So I'm like, this has been great. So worked on a lot of things that I guess we're getting neglected, you know? So
there you go.
Yeah. I mean, there is some positives from COVID for sure, you know, besides lots of people dying and being sick. That's awful, but
but if you can take some
business is going under and all the other terrible things.
But it is the reality we're in.
Have you guys tried any like anything to like keep you busy as far as that goes? Like
walks are good. Lots of long walks. I didn't think that it would help, you know, be super bummed out and I'd be like, I don't want to fucking do that. It's not going to help anyways. Life is stupid.
That's what it means at the beginning for sure.
I went on a few like hour-long walks and those are really good. The gyms are open again, but you know, we're going into a third wave, guys. That's it. It like
I hope not.
I don't know what I'm talking about, but that's what's gonna happen. We're having a third lockdown for sure.
I imagine that it'll with what's happening now with the reopenings, there'll be spikes in the numbers. That's just how it has been going. So I wouldn't be surprised if things get shut again. Yeah, it's really tough on businesses like yours too. I imagine, Matt, and like I've had conversations with a lot of different people, and I am of the opinion that it'll be locked down again. So like any plans that I might be making for a world that's open, I'm not ready to like commit to those yet. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because if
fair enough. Yeah, I mean,
you don't want to. I don't think you want to be counting on it right now. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's Katie doing with all the like your fiance is a nurse. How's she doing?
She is
tired, like exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, her job is difficult on any normal, quote unquote, normal day, right? So she's a clinical nurse specialist, which means that she is consulted to come and check out sort of more complex situations that patients are in. She's a specialist in wound care, so when oftentimes it's from people being immobile for a long time for whatever reason, they'll develop these pressure injuries from not being able to roll over in bed. It's actually, if you can't roll over in bed, it's actually horrendous what happens. Which, yeah, like you just develop these injuries because your bones, it's kind of graphic and stuff, but your bones sort of start to press into your flesh and like sort of press through. So yeah, and then if you're already sick, then you're greater risk of having infections happen, and so things sort of snowball, and people end up with very, very complex and severe wound situations. So that's typically what Katie looks at. So, COVID sort of adds this extra layer of like, well, now you have to wear all this extra equipment, which, we're all, probably have complained at one time or another about having to wear a mask. It's like any of the nurses or the frontline people, they're wearing a way more uncomfortable mask and a face shield and an entire gown and gloves. And every time they go from one room to another, they have to change all of that or scrub all of it or wash all of it and then put it all back on. So it's pretty grueling for like a long shift. And then, obviously the more overloaded the hospitals become, like sometimes some weeks are extraordinarily difficult for her. And from my perspective, like early on, it was all about, thank you nurses, thank you doctors, thank you frontline workers, and all the, big businesses were piling on because it was opportunistic to support these people. And 100%. Like a year later, it's like nobody's talking about that anymore. And there's the previous second wave, at the height of the second wave, which was the worst it's been in Ontario, like they were working harder than ever. So I guess if I'm trying to say anything here, it's like, don't forget that these people are still, everything about COVID is still happening.
They're still in it.
Still super real.
Well, they're fucking probably so exhausted by this.
Yeah, like we may be sort of chilling at home and we're dealing with what we're dealing with and whatever, but like they're still fighting it.
You can't complain when you look at what they're going
exactly.
through. Right? It's
so
like,
I would just encourage people to send some love to anybody who's in that position. Yeah. That's my rant.
True that.
Hopefully it does better than my original COVID rant.
Al's original stance on. Do you know about this, Matt?
I don't know if I know.
I don't want to.
Okay, so his original stance. This was like how far before it like shit hit the fan was this?
I feel it was like 3 weeks, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because like the news, it really looked like the news was doing the thing that the news does, where they're like trying to build like, it's not hype, but they're trying to build like fear mongering. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it looked like they were like fear mongering.
Right.
So I was like, everybody calm down. It's going to be fine, which is true. That was the message. But it was a little bit too too light. If you listen back to it,
it wasn't great.
It
didn't.
Well.
I didn't look didn't look very wise a couple weeks later, but that's okay.
That being said, though, your main message was great, though. Like, don't panic. Like, that was the big part of it. It's like, like, don't fucking freak out. It's gonna be fine. It's just gonna suck, and you know what? It has sucked.
It was funny listening to the earlier podcast episodes because I could tell what stage of COVID we were like going through because you guys would like talk about it briefly. Funny, yeah. I remember, I don't know whose episode it was, but it was like, yeah, like, how do you feel about the whole mask thing? Like, do you wear a mask in public? And I was just laughing. It's just like, well, now we all have to.
Yeah.
Like, that was a while back, right? So you could see like it was like people had opinions about the mask thing, right? And it's like, no, that's totally mandatory.
Yeah.
We were idiots.
Yeah,
they didn't know what they were talking about at that time. No, remember that? They were like, they didn't know what the masks did at that time.
The highest like public health officials I remember, because I was watching the news every day, and they were the high end officials in Ontario and otherwise were being like, yeah, you can wear it if you want to, but you don't have to. It's not clear that it does anything. Yeah. And it was like, I always kind of wondered, tinfoil hat theory here, but I always kind of wondered if they were saying that so that people wouldn't hoard them, because everybody was hoarding things at the time, and maybe there was a concern. I don't know. Amazon. That was my little tinfoil hat.
Well, I've heard that like people in the construction world are very bad for the mask thing. Like no one wears them.
Oh,
That's
really?
What I heard. Like, 'cause my cousin works a bit in that world, and yeah, he said it's really annoying because it's like that's part of the problem, you know. Mm-hmm. So people are just not giving a crap, you know.
Well,
that aren't working, and no one's cracking down on them, you know. It's like sometimes I think people feel like where they're cracking down is not the right places, you know.
Sure.
You know, which goes back to the whole box store argument and all that.
Yeah.
But, you know,
people are just sick of it, man. They're ready to move on from it, and unfortunately it's not the appropriate time to do that, you know. There's been a couple of house parties going on near us, and it's just like, this is not okay. Like, I get that you're lonely. I get that it's been hard. We understand that, but it's like, it's not time. It's just not time yet. It's too bad, because it's gonna make things prolonged.
You gotta hang on a little longer.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's
those are wiser words.
Wise words. Yeah. Maybe that's a good place to wrap it up, unless you guys have any other points we got to hit. I know Mike's got to get to a lesson in a bit. Thank you so much for coming on, Matt. We'd love to do this again anytime.
Yes.
Pick your brain a little bit more about production stuff.
Thanks for having me, and go support the podcast, people. They're doing good things here.
Buy that merch.
Go buy that merch.
That
Patreon, and thank you for your support on the Patreon as well, there, Matt. And that's not that's not anywhere in any way directly related to Matt coming on as a guest, but he is also a listener and is supporting the show.
That's the requirement.
I enjoy the show. Yeah, don't let anyone else on unless they're a Patreon.
There you go. They got to buy some buttons.
So there is this
buttons as well.
There is this little matter of the Patreon before we start recording. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm just gonna need you to put your credit card in here.
Yeah. But we do really appreciate anybody who's taking a look over there and thinking about supporting the show directly. There are some cool perks, including coaching sessions and lessons and stuff with Mike and myself, among other things. And we do have the merch store up and running, musicguydepodcast.com. Just click on the shop button, t-shirts, masks, anything you want to do. That's another way that you can directly support the show and then get a bit of swag to, show off to your friends. Making podcasts ain't free. So if it's crazy how you can, I've always probably said this before, it's crazy how you can upload unlimited amounts of like video to YouTube for free, but to put like a 40 megabyte podcast file on a website, you have to pay a bunch of money. So,
wow.
I wonder, I'm sure there's a cheaper way we could do it, but then we wouldn't be on all platforms. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there is
you got to be on the platforms.
And there are ways of doing it for free, but then you're like signing over your intellectual property to the company that's hosting, and then which is kind of whack. So, but anyhow, we appreciate all the support, and thanks everybody for listening. I think for the song of the week this week, we got to play an Anathema's Blessing tune.
Oh, jeez. 100%.
Yeah. There you go. Here,
so Mike, send me
one. Matt, you got to choose which one.
Choose one.
Oh, that's way too hard.
Send me an
MP3. All right, I'll pick something. I don't know.
Let's read off these titles right now, actually.
Oh, yeah, you got to hear the titles. This is great.
The titles are great. Okay. 1 second. It's going to take a second to get Anathema's I don't even know what that means.
I can name a couple off the top of my head, but I don't know all.
Okay, go ahead, and I'll whatever you missed.
I remember this first track was Lords of the Sky, and then Never Real was the second track.
That's good.
Remember one was Sell the Soul. Sell the Soul. That's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Melodious and the Seer. Melodious and the Seer.
A little bit of like fantasy.
I don't even know
what
that
lyrics.
means.
Okay.
Yeah, TJ, who our singer at the time, was very into Final Fantasy, the video game.
Yeah.
Such a great game.
So a lot of these
Alice
titles and
way
ideas.
into Final Fantasy 6.
Yeah, a lot of the titles come from that. So.
Okay, so the ones that you missed was Lament Part 1, Part 2. I don't even remember what those sound like. Home's a good one. I like Home.
Okay, maybe that'll be the
Betrayers.
Slay the Betrayers.
Melodious and the Seer, I think, is my favorite. If Al had to check them out, Melodious and the Seer is my favorite. Home,
that is a fun one.
Lords of the Sky, of course.
Depends how much time you want the song to be, because some of them are a little lengthy.
The longest track on the album is 8 minutes and 34 seconds.
There you go.
I feel like you're clicking on like a metal band name generator on the internet or something, just coming up with these.
That's a good question.
Seriously,
what is our next? What is our next band going to be called, Matt? Let's see.
We need something good.
Metalbandgenerator.com. All right. Feral Satan is going to be our next.
Oh wow,
nice.
That's dark.
Gates of Flesh.
Oh, there
you go.
We got interesting.
We got to combine our dogs' names or something.
That's pretty graphic.
Yeah,
like Fergie Mo or Fergmo. I don't know.
Fergmo. That's not metal enough.
Yeah,
no,
it sounds like a DJ or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Respect. I just say that now. I just say respect. It's really fucking stupid.
So Matt, where can people reach out to you if they want to inquire about producing or hire you for a gig at some point in the future, or just ask a question or anything?
Yeah, sure. They can go to my website, so mattomusic.ca, or they can email me, matt@mattomusic.ca. You can go to my YouTube, youtube.com/mattomusic. Pretty straightforward. Facebook, I think, is also Matto Music. So pretty much anywhere there you can find me. IG, I think, is also at Matto Music. I might have said that already, but yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. And Mike Hebs is on Instagram at Bruno the Meek, also on Facebook. I'm at Alvaro Music on most social media platforms. So feel free to reach out to us if you have a Song of the Week submission or an episode idea, or just want to say hey, or maybe inquire about various services that we provide. Thanks everybody for listening. We're happy to be back, man. Episode 65. We're a senior podcast now. We'll see you guys all next week. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.